Question everything, trust nothing. Welcome to the Danger Close Alpha podcast. The danger is close. Stay tuned for the Alpha. Crusader, my man, I'm excited about this, bro. What is on the intelligence report today?
Man, there's a lot of things in the intelligence report, right? We got the GOP recap. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about the Trump interview. We're going to be talking about Trump and the indictment situation that his mugshot has been happening. We're going to be talking about the Wagner group. If you guys don't know what that is, you guys going to get filled in. There's a lot happening with Wagner over there in good old Russia. We also have the Maui fires. We're going to have a quick little recap about that and the blue umbrellas, right? Get ready.
Yep.
So that, and I believe what the last thing would be.
Well, we've got the BRICS. We've got the BRICS nations.
Yeah,
and India. Are they faking a moon landing? I don't know. I'm gonna tell you this right now for everybody that's here. Okay, let's just start off. First of all, I feel great to be back in my vest, bro. I'm feeling protected, living out here in this hood. You know what I mean? If shots start coming through the window, I'm ready. Got my okay. No, don't live in the hood. But I'm excited. We've been talking about this for a long time. So thank you for those of you that are here. We appreciate you. We're going to have some fun. I want to tell everybody, we're going to try to walk the line here. Okay. We are on YouTube still. All right. We are going to have links in the description for Rumble and Kick and what is it? Rumble, Kick. What else, Crusader?
Yeah, we got Rumble, we got Kick, and we're obviously streaming this onto the Twitter of Danger Close Alpha as well.
Okay.
I shut down the Twitter space because I don't think it was working properly.
Okay.
We'll figure that out for next week.
Yeah, we'll figure that out for next week. But yeah, so we're going to try to walk the line. We're going to have some fun. Listen, we want you guys to get involved in the chat. We're going to try to go as ham as possible without getting ourselves in trouble. So stick around. Let's have some fun with it. Let's dive right into it. Let's kick it off. I'll tell you what. Let me just say this as a little preemptive thing here. The Republican national debate was the other night, and I turned it on, and very quickly I was like, am I watching a reality TV show, or am I watching politicians actually talk about, real events, real things that are happening? And I will say, just on the front end, we're going to show you a video here in just a second with some highlights. The one thing that I didn't like that I took away from it was how I almost feel like a lot of the candidates, a number of them, were almost trying to pull a play out of Trump's playbook. I think that they were trying to effectively be funny. They were trying to basically be the bad guy.
Was literally trying to run like he was Trump.
I got some info on him that we're going to dive into.
Ramen Salami.
Ramen Salami. Why am I listed as Crusader here? My gosh, we got to fix that. Let me get this fixed real quick. Jeez.
Yeah, dude. I mean, the whole debate was very interesting. DeSantis didn't show up the way I thought he would. And I got some thoughts on that. Ramen Salami, interesting character, but I think he's got a sketchy past that we're also going to be covering here.
Yeah.
And then everyone else is kind of like, just Fugazi on the sidelines, right? Scott, useless out there.
Useless.
What was the other girl's name? Nikki. She actually showed up, tried to put some spark in her step, right? Had a few good controversial points that she hit. What were the other two old guys? The guy from North Dakota with the broken leg. Yeah, nothing. That guy couldn't deliver a message for anything. What was the other guy? Biden's cousin. What was Biden's cousin?
Biden's cousin.
Yeah, the guy that used to work for the DEA. Biden's cousin, bro. He was there.
Yeah.
Doug something, maybe his name.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, let's pull him up. Let's pull this up.
Let's start
with that. If you guys didn't see this, check this out. We're gonna play a little bit of this. All right.
Welcome
Can you hear this?
To the first debate of the 2024 presidential campaign, live at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee.
This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax.
Okay, let's pause there. Let's start there. Let's start with Vivek. Okay, let's start with Vivek.
Ramen Salami.
Ramen Salami, as Crusader likes to call him. Okay. I will say this to everybody on here. On its face, the things that he says, I'm voting for him. Okay. Like on its face, the things that he says.
The 5 points that he pointed out were great.
I'm all about what he's talking about. Okay. We'll show that a little bit later. Like his 5. Actually, does he say that right off the rip here?
No, he doesn't say it at the very beginning. He says it like he says it at the very end of the debate. He like reiterates his 5 main points.
So let's start with him. Okay. He is the only one up there that is not a career politician. He's 39 years old. He's my age. He's 38 or 39. Okay. And so he's old, right? He's ancient, archaic, probably going to die soon. Okay. But he's about half the age of the average person standing up on that stage. You know what I'm saying? But I like what he says, but started looking into this a little bit. And I don't know if you guys have heard this, and I'm not trying to cast doubt, but that's what this show is about, right? We want to dive into the real topics. Okay. Who is he? He has turned himself into a heavily multimillionaire / billionaire. I don't know what his actual money is.
I don't know what his actual money worth, or whether he's in the billions or millions, but it was through the pharmaceutical companies.
Yes, it was through the pharmaceutical companies. Okay, so first thing, little red flag. I'm like, okay. So we dive in and look at, okay, what's going on there? Well, the word on the street is that his pharmaceutical company, and I actually had this pulled up and I accidentally
has
put
no
it out.
viable product. They've never produced a product.
Vivek Ramaswamy. I want to see what it's called. It starts with an R.
It's like Rowan something.
Roivant.
There you go.
So they promised to upend drug discovery and become the, quote, highest return on investment endeavor ever taken up by the pharmaceutical industry, he said in a 2015 interview. Okay, let's start there. So pharma company. The pharma company, actually, if you look at their balance sheet, has done absolutely just nothing. They've been terrible. They've been losing billions of dollars. Now, Vivek funded his own campaign with his own money, $10 million. But let's talk about how he got it.
How did he get it?
The stock price was at $3. Okay. He ends up selling a whole bunch of stock at like $8. Okay. Get your money. Cool. No problem with that. You made money on your stock. But why did the stock valuation go up? Who are the people, Crusader, that he talks trash about? Start there.
BlackRock,
Vanguard, State Street.
Yep.
WEF.
Yep.
All of those people. Okay.
Are buying his stock.
Does anybody in the chat want to take a guess? Who's that? Now, you cannot stop these companies from buying in, right? It's a publicly traded company. So to be clear,
what a coincidence. They all came in at the same time.
You can't stop them, but they sure own a nice little bag of said company. Okay. Boom. Now, same Vivek, all right, that's talking absolute trash about him or about all of these, right? Aren't all of these companies the same companies that own the media? They are, right?
Yep.
The media companies across the board, he has came out of nowhere, and this is where it gets interesting. He's came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, he's basically at the top of the possible number one, for the Republican platform.
Yeah, I think after the debate, he's above DeSantis.
Okay, so he comes out of left field. He's not a politician. He has great things to say. Here's the problem. All of these left-leaning, all of these absolute, programs that would normally just absolutely trash someone that is beating up on their sponsors, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, the WEF, they're all promoting his stuff. Like when I say promoting, they're playing it and playing it and playing it and playing it. And it's like, wait a minute, you absolutely cancel everyone else. So my question to you, Crusader, is could he be a plant?
100%, right? We've talked about this before about having these people put in there as a sleeper agent, right? Like, hey, maybe there's some Democrats that identify as Republicans, but they're actually working for the Democratic Party.
They identify as Republicans.
Right? They identify as Republicans, and same vice versa, right? The same thing's happening in the Democratic Party with Republicans. But, why wouldn't the World Economic Forum, why wouldn't BlackRock, why wouldn't these major companies have people put on stage to talk about certain things to maybe get into the White House, right? To really, that are really controlled by them. Nobody gets there. Nobody gets to the White House without getting dirty, right? Without having a conversation, having some type of deal, because ain't no outsider, true outsider that doesn't know any of these big players going to be allowed to just walk into the White House and say, well, now I'm just going to start making rules. Because even if that were to happen by some miracle of God, that were to happen, the minute he walks in and takes a seat, somebody's going to be knocking his door and be like, all right, we got some people outside that want to talk to you.
Sit down. We need to educate
we're
you,
going to have
son.
some meetings here real quick and show you how really play ball around here. And that's happened. That's been proven in the past by what's his name, J. Edgar Hoover, or Edgar J. Hoover, whatever his name is, one of the first like founding members or very at the beginning of the FBI creation. He would literally show up to the presidents, right? JFK included. I saw somebody drop JFK in the chat, JFK included, and he would wait outside all day. No worries. Wait, he didn't have an appointment. He would just wait. When he got his turn and he walked in, he showed up. He's like, hey, this is the budget that I want. This is what I'm going to be doing, and I need you to back it. They're like, no, I'm absolutely not. Oh, okay. You want to pay that? Well, let me show you this other folder I got here that shows, your wife was doing X, Y, and Z. You were doing X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Your friends were doing X, Y, and Z. Oh, this money transfer from over here and over there. Yeah. I don't think you want that coming out right now. Right.
Yep.
So you approve my budget. You approve everything I'm saying, or we're going to have a very difficult time in here. And they bend the knee.
100%. And so now you take it a step further. He's the only one effectively up on stage. Now, a few of them raised their hand, and we'll show this in a minute, but a few of them raised their hand, like, who would support Trump after the indictment? And I think another one of the things that I like is that Vivek says, hey, listen, I don't want to win an election off of basically a police state taking over and pulling down the nominee that should actually win this presidency. So I like that. But he also talks a lot about the World Economic Forum. I'm not going to say this exactly correctly, but effectively he was endorsed, or the World Economic Forum put out something about him as being endorsed by the World Economic Forum as being this up and coming young entrepreneurial businessman that basically is to be looked up to, blah, 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 blah. Okay, fine. Guess what he did? This was years ago. They supported him, backed him. It's on there. He's suing the World Economic Forum. No, hold on. Back up. He sued the World Economic Forum, and within 3 months, he not only won the case and got money out of the World Economic Forum, but they wrote him a written apology, ladies and gentlemen. Have you ever seen the World Economic Forum write an apology letter to somebody? So my question becomes, what does he have, or why would they be willing to do something like that if he's not an important chess piece on the board?
100%. Yeah, he's definitely got to have some connections somewhere down the line, somewhere in his bloodline. He's related to somebody that is obviously pulling some big strings, because those type of things don't just happen.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there. Again, to be clear, if you made me vote right now and Trump wasn't an option, just probably overall, that would be, this is on this. On this channel, we're going to give it to you straight. We're not going to, try to skirt whatever. Like, I'll tell you, I would vote for him on its face for the things that he's saying. My problem then becomes, you use that stuff, okay, but they're politics. At this point, he's a politician. And we've seen people and politicians say things for a long time that is a bunch of fugazi.
Always, dude. You never get elected without promising fugazi, right? Because that's just the way it works. It doesn't matter. Oh, I'm not a politician. Okay. But you talk like one, right? And you act like one. So if you talk like one and it acts like one, it's probably one, right? So
drop a 1 in the chat if you support what Ramaswamy's saying, and drop a 2 if you support it, but not so sure you'd vote for him. I'm just curious kind of where you guys are at. Like,
so I agree, right? I would, if I had to, my vote would go towards him. But the only thing that withholds me is the fact that I know he wouldn't win. He's not going to win the Bible Belt, right? The Republican Party has always nominated a white old guy, right? And this is going to be a controversial topic here, but it's the truth. If he would have ran as Democrat, he could be the next Obama, right? He could be the next Obama.
Which Chris, which which
was
what's
pointed
his
out
face
in the
compares
debate,
him to,
which
yeah,
was pointed out, right? And it would make sense because Democrats appoint a lot more. You know, we had a black president, right?
Yeah.
They want Hillary Clinton as the next president, right? They want a female president. They have a more diverse group, right?
It's virtue signaling, bruh.
Into the narrative, right? Like, hey, I came here from a third world country and I build myself from nothing to this, and you know, I'm a brown Indian guy, right? I vote for me. Boom. Next Obama.
Well, then shoot, Crusader, you should be good, bro. You should be running for office right now, bro. You fit the narrative.
I would if I could, bro. I would if I could. You think I wouldn't use that to my advantage? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? I'd be planted. I'd be a sleeper agent. I'd be as a Democrat, but I'm actually working for the Republican Party. So I would do the exact same thing. But
vote for this Cuban guy that came over on a boat with a piece of paper held up to catch the wind.
Just rolling my way over here. So the fact that he's gonna have to be the first ever Republican nominee, right? If he were to win the nomination, he would have to be the first Republican ever to be a non-white guy, foreign guy.
Would he?
Yeah, he would be. He would. No Republican nominee for president has ever been a non-white old guy.
And you know what's interesting? One of his topics, and we talk about this a lot privately, like, I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care if you're a human being and you're doing like good things for other human beings and like have like values and support things that I'm on board with, could care less. But it's interesting because what
your color skin is.
You actually think they care?
Of course, because it gets them brownie points. They can virtually,
no pun intended.
Right? They can virtually say, look at this guy. This ramen salami over here came from a third world country. We can't even pronounce his name, right? This is the guy. Give people in America opportunities. This is the guy. And then people will vote for him.
And he's a billionaire off the pharma industry, backed possibly by the WF BlackRock that he's talking trash. There's just some interesting things there. So,
dude,
hey,
Democrats
we're going to keep
weren't about big pharma, but they are now.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It benefits them, right? And so, you know, we're going to try to keep you guys updated on Crusader 2024.
Revolution, baby. Revolution.
We'll definitely keep you updated. Hey, listen, you put Keeper 2024 up on there. I got to tell you, my campaign is going to start with all of the awful shit that I used to do, right? So that I just get it all out there, right? Like, hey, here it is. So there's no like, you don't get like a surprise commercial like, listen to what Keeper did. No. I'm doing my own trash commercials. Like, he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this, he did this.
This message.
Now that that's all there, I approved this message. Now that we got past that, let's get it. But yeah, so ultimately there's a lot that happened there. So let's keep going on this real quick. Let me hit this again, because there were some fun little spots here that got heated up.
The climate change agenda is a hoax, and we have to declare independence for it.
I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, what's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here, was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
So he says right here, he says back to him, he says, hey, come over here and give me a hug like you did Obama, like just trying to fire back at him like, oh, yeah, you're talking trash about him now, but you were hugging him last time you know what I'm saying?
I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus.
To be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question,
we're going to talk about
American
this in a second.
They didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue. It's a moral issue.
Don't make.
Okay, let's pause.
That's on the dictatorship to me, bro. Consensus is the opposite of leadership. It's like, what happened to the free state, right? Democratic Republic of America. That sounds like you do what I tell you, and that's it.
So let's hit the hot topic. Let's hit it, right? Again, folks, walk the line. Okay, abortion is a hot topic, okay? 100%.
Every election cycle, it
always
a hot topic.
topic.
Always be. No matter what regulation.
First question.
Always.
First question, give it to the states or give it to the Fed? What do you think and why?
I say give it to the states.
Okay, why?
Because I don't believe in big government, and this is something that should be handled state to state. Hey, if there's a state where more pro-life people live and they have pro-life regulation, good. Oh, you don't like your pro-life? You want to go live in a state like California where they're just slinging babies left and right? Well, go ahead, go over there and do your thing, right? That's your problem. For that reason, for the big government problem, I think that it should not be a federal ban. The federal ban thing is a very slippery slope. It's like even for pro-life people, right? They're like, I'm pro-life, so I want it federal in the entire country. But you're also giving them the power that now why you gave them the go ahead and give us a federal ban on this topic. So now when the next topic comes that you might not like, the federal government's gonna be like, well, we have federal bans for this and this and this and this. Now we're getting a federal ban for this other topic that you might not be liking. And then where's your ammunition? Like, oh, no, I'm not pro big government. I'm not pro big government. Wait a minute. You were just saying you wanted big government to come in and tell you what you can and cannot do. So for that reason, I believe it should go into the states and give the states more power.
I agree with you. It's a controversial idea. I am unapologetically pro-life as well. Crusader and I had an interesting conversation, so let's have it. I ultimately, my stance is that, like, yeah, if something unfortunate were to happen, we spend all of this money. So when I say something unfortunate, I'm talking about something was forced on somebody else, right? And then the result was, hey, we got a baby on the way, right? That's terrible. I would never, ever, 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 and I know people that's happened to, so God just be with them because that is awful, right? But that being said, we spend so much money on providing things like Planned Parenthood and all of these other places to effectively just ixnay the baby, right? Why can we not provide that money for the mothers? And then the mothers, I understand it would be, you could make it a large number. You could make it a, hey, listen, like, I know that you don't want to have to go through this, but at the end of the day, it's not the baby's fault. You provide this money, this liquidity to them, and then adopt the baby. I think that ultimately Crusader has a really interesting take on why would they not want to, or why would they do that or not do that, Crusader? Let's see you walk the line on this one.
If the government, yeah, there's going to be a tight rope here from building to building walking this one. So what I'm going to say here, everybody strap in, right? There is some incentive for the government to do exactly what you're saying, for the simple fact that they, putting these kids into adoption, right, and then facilitating that process. And right, there's a famous island that likes to take in a lot of children, and they will definitely need some more ammunition. They would definitely need some resupplying, right? And there's other different things that are happening around the country where kids disappear from the system, right? And we've seen the Sound of Freedom, right? People seen that movie, that documentary come out, right? You see what's been happening. Those things aren't just, they come from somewhere, right? They come from somewhere. So there is some incentives for that. Unfortunately, I obviously do not support that, and I do not want that to be a thing. But if the politicians want to be dirty about it, there definitely is some incentive. I am 100% on, jokes aside, I am 100% for the pro-life and for the adoption thing, and obviously under very close watch to make sure no funny business is happening. But it's something that it makes sense. It makes sense that with all this, like I said, all the support that is given to just terminate, why isn't there any other alternative for the people that don't want to, right? The people that don't want to should also have some support, not just, oh, well, you chose to keep it, so now you just got to deal with it, right? Like, why is it that, black and white kind of situation there with that narrative? Then there should also be some level of support for the people that, unfortunately, for whatever circumstances happened, there is a baby on the way and they cannot or do not want to handle it. They can have an alternative to have some support, but they don't want to terminate it either, right?
And and I want to say, for the record, like, abortion is not birth control. Okay, so I don't care where you stand on it. It's not freaking birth control. Okay?
Nowadays,
it's become that. It's become that, and so I'll step away from it at this point. It's our first day on stream, so I don't want to, but It's not. Okay. So there's got to be other opportunities out there. There's got to be other alternatives. But I also, at the same breath, you know, when Crusader and I talk a lot of times, or you'll hear me say, like, I would probably consider myself libertarian. What does that really mean to me? What it means to me is I don't just let people do what they're going to do and kind of keep the government out of my business. That's kind of how I feel about it. I don't support bans across the board, just 100%, no matter what, on basically anything. I think that it should go to the people. I think the people in the individual states can pick where they want to live. And if we want to basically unionize it, basically where we're just like living in certain areas because of, I mean, it's happening. We talked about it on Debate Crypto a minute ago. It's happening anyway. People are mass exodus from California and going to Texas and going to Tennessee and going to these different places because it doesn't benefit them to be there anymore. So if they want to be wild and get into all of this craziness that they're pushing on these different states, people are going to say enough's enough and they're going to move. Just like Joe Rogan, like I said, just like
it's just
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, it's just like logically for me, and I'm pretty sure you agree too. As Christians, we believe in pro-life, right? Yeah. And we don't want these things to happen, these abortions to happen. But I cannot go with a federal ban because I do not want to give power to bigger government when we already know where that's leading us to, right? It's leading us.
And we're going to talk about that later today.
So it's a catch-22, right? It's a I don't want this to be happening, but I'm not going to bend the knee and give you power, all right? Yes. Because I know much worse things will come of it later down the line.
Yeah. Let's keep going here.
Make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation to ban abortion after a baby is capable of experiencing pain.
If former President Trump is convicted
here you
in
go.
a court of
watch
law,
these hands.
Would you still support him as your party's choice?
Shoots it up.
Please raise your hand if you would.
Whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no right to overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
The last statement is true, but the beginning of the statement is false. Him saying that he did not have the right, he did, and it was proven in the Tucker Trump interview. There was a power that the VP had to send back the votes and redo a whole nother process for the voting count and whatever it was, and Pence chose not to because of his personal lawyers and because of whatever. And the Democrats were all about saying, no, the VP does not have this power. But the minute that the election ended and the Biden and Kamala came in and Congress came back together, one of the first things they did was pass legislation to remove that power of the VP of sending the votes back. So now for future references, the VP no longer has that power. So he is correct at the end of that statement. But the beginning, he did have the right when he was VP, and he chose not to.
He did, which ultimately leads us to our next topic. First of all, thank you guys for being here. We're going to be as of right now, and this could change. We'll kind of feel this out. Obviously, this is our first day streaming here.
Make crypto all over again, bro.
I know. We're just starting at zero, baby. Well, we're not starting at zero. I don't know how many subs we got now, but I appreciate. We got 23. Let's go. I appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you smash the like. Okay, definitely same thing as over on Debate Crypto. But we're going to continue to go ham on some of these topics and really dive into the questions and chat. I really want you guys to get involved as much as possible. We want to bring you guys in. We actually would like to, as we continue to grow, we've talked about this a little bit. We tried to do a Debate Crypto, but people didn't really seem to want to do it. I think these topics, maybe people will. We could do some of the Twitter call-ins on this, Crusader. You know what I mean? So we might bring some topics up and have people call in on the YouTube show from Twitter, kind of give their, opinion on what's happening. Yes. Obviously, to be clear, if we start doing that, we need to ask that you guys are at least understanding of the fact that we're on YouTube. So like we can only go so wild, you know what I mean? Like use your words wisely. But I'm super, super excited about what's happening here and what's going on. All right. So next up, January 6th happened, right? if you believe that that's really what happened,
Well,
how it happened, whatever.
but it just
But
didn't
it
go down the way
happened.
people think it
It
happened.
didn't go down the way that they're saying that it happened. But as a result of that, the election, all of the craziness, you got this. Let me pull this up right now. Let's talk about it. Let's start off with just on its face. Tell me about this, Crusader.
On his face.
Talk to me on its face.
It looks
Is this
like
the most genius marketing play ever? Was there a discussion that happened before this? Like, hey, how do you want to look? Or is this just Trump being Trump?
This is a power play, right? This is him knowing that this image is gonna go viral. Because the minute he stepped out, he made a video and everything. He made a video right in front of the jail. So like he was there ready with his marketing team, knowing that this was gonna be a viral moment, and took full advantage of it, right? And this is why these indictments, like somebody said in the chat, is actually making him more and more popular, right? Because it makes it seem like the deep state, the big government, is trying to silence him and trying to take him down, which then gives people more reasons to try to vote for him because he's the outsider, right? He's gonna clear out the swamp, yada yada, right? He's gonna do all this stuff. So I think it's genius. I think this is why he's in the lead. I think this is why DeSantis is not going to make it because DeSantis looked like a robot on stage, and he was nervous. I don't know what was wrong with him. I don't know if he didn't take his happy pills or whatever it was.
You've seen him a lot because you live in Florida. Like,
yes,
what was
I've
your
seen him a lot
impression
on TV.
of his? What did you see? What did you see? What were you seeing that he does or doesn't you normally do?
Dude, on TV here in the state of Florida, he's a savage, right? He is literally like a younger Trump, right? He just says it how it is. He's having a great time. He's got his supporters, unapologetic about things, and just completely comfortable where he's at.
Yeah.
But on that stage, he was a robot. He was stiff. He wouldn't even turn his neck to look at the people next to him. When he spoke, he was reading from the speech. It looked like he was Biden reading his notes, right? And he would just look down, read his notes, look down, read his speech. He didn't actually have a natural conversation with the people of America. And then when he tried to smile, right, it was like,
He had something going on. Maybe he had to take a shit. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, dude, I don't know what it was, but it did terrible for him. And a lot of people blame it on the fact that he refuses to go on these other major podcasts and talk and be just a natural person. And they're trying to go very, very very strict on how he talks, and it's not appealing to the people of America. Unfortunately, the elections have become a popular thing of who the popular kid is and how enthusiastic this person is, right? That's why JFK won back in the day. It was because he was the young, enthusiastic guy that people liked seeing on the TV, right? And
Vivek.
Yeah, Vivek, why is he doing so well? Because of that same reason. People can resonate with him, and he looks like a regular human, not like DeSantis that looked like a robot out there. And they're playing games. They're playing games because I saw the PBD podcast, Patrick Bet David podcast. They were talking about it. They were actually there at the debate. And when they were off screen, he and Christie were talking constantly. So Christie has become, according to the PVD podcast, has become the mouthpiece of DeSantis's team to shoot at Trump, right? To hit Trump hard, while DeSantis sits back, and nobody targets DeSantis. Nobody targeted DeSantis in the entire
not at all.
Ever.
The whole debate, nobody did. You're right.
They were
going after Vivek.
Ramen Salami or Pence or Christie for whatever fugazi they were saying. But Trump is the reason why Trump is number one is because of viral marketing like this, and the move of going on Tucker, not going on the debate, right? He's already number one by far. So all they're gonna do is shoot at him and try to pull him down and make him look bad. So why would he give people that opportunity? He's not gonna go higher in the polls by showing up at the debate. It doesn't work to his advantage. So
well, let's pull up the indictment. Let's look at it. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is like a lot of pages. So we're not going to read through this whole indictment. You guys would get bored to tears, but I want to kind of touch on a couple of these. All right. So it says the United States of America versus Donald J. Trump.
You got
the defendant. Oh, shoot. Let me see if it'll let me click on it. Oh, yeah. I got to change the percentage here. My bad. How is
there you go. That's good.
Is this good? The defendant, Donald J. Trump, was the 45th president of the United States. The defendant lost the 2020 presidential election. All right. Despite having lost, the defendant was determined to remain in power. So more than 2 months following the election day of November 3rd, 2020, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome determinative fraud in the election that he had actually won. These claims were false, and the defendant knew they were false, but the defendant repeatedly and widely disseminated them anyway to make his knowingly false claims appear legitimate, create an intense national atmosphere of mistrust and anger, and erode public faith in the administration of the election. Now, here's where I think this is interesting. The defendant had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even to claim falsely that there had been outcome determinative fraud during the election that he had won. He also was entitled to formally challenge the results of the election through lawful and appropriate means, such as by seeking recounts or audits of the popular vote in states or filing lawsuits challenging ballots and procedures. Indeed, in many cases, the defendant did pursue these methods of contesting election results. His effort to change the outcome in any state that through recounts, audits, or legal challenges were uniformly unsuccessful. Shortly after Election Day, he also pursued unlawful means of discounting legitimate votes and subverting the election results. In doing so, the defendant perpetrated 3 conspiracies: conspiracy to defraud the United States government, conspiracy to corrupt and obstruct and impede the January 6th congressional proceeding at which the collective results of the presidential election are counted and certified, C, a conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted. Okay, that's all we're going to touch on right here. First of all, January 6th, there was a lot of questionable characters that were a whole part of this whole thing. I said his name to you the other day.
Matt,
the Fed, Ray Epps. Okay. So it's widely known. A lot of you are probably going to know who this person is. He was the guy that was whispering in the other guy's ear before they ran in. He was the guy that was like saying, we got to charge this. We got to charge the Capitol. We got to get in the Capitol. And they're like, Fed. If you've ever seen the videos, right? So there was so much surrounding all of this, just the votes in general, that didn't make sense, right? They were basically wanting to purport to basically portray that Donald Trump was inciting violence and riots and all this stuff. And I actually hear people talk about the January 6th as if I heard news outlets compare it to freaking September 11th. And I was like, first of all, not to get off on a tangent, that shit was fake too. But second of all, okay, excuse me if you lost someone. I don't mean that it didn't happen. Whatever. But there's a lot of over. There was a lot. And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of question marks as to whether we, were the
just quickly want to say, guys, there's a link down below to our Rumble channel. Please go subscribe over there. We're not gonna last. We're not gonna last. Go subscribe over there. We need 5 subs to be able to stream live on Rumble. We need 5 subs to stream on Rumble. So please go to the description down below. Copy the link, put it in there.
Please, we're going to be in trouble. Okay. So moving forward, there's a lot that happened. One of the other things that I thought was really interesting with this whole thing as they push these indictments forward, when you look back at some of the voting stuff that happened, there was literally these massive amount of late night dumps. And this was proven, right? That were like 99% Joe Biden. There was more dead people that voted than ever before. Like there was a lot that genuinely happened and we know like election stuff happens. We're going to talk about the, masking and stuff here in a little bit, which kind of ties in, I think, to the election. So we'll get into that. So stick around for that. We're going to have some fun with that conversation as well. But Crusader, why are they pushing so hard against Donald Trump? Like, why are they going after an ex-president that wants to run again? Why is he the freaking whipping boy? Why is it so polarizing and they just absolutely want to say no to Trump?
I don't know, man. I'm really divided on this topic. Really, really divided, right? The most obvious, you're like, yeah, bro, he's fighting against them, so therefore he's one of the people. He's the people's champion, and they don't want him to be there, right? Because he's, the whole QAnon thing. He's trying to save the world, right? His son's a time traveler, and he came back from time, save the world, yada yada, all this crap. And you want to believe that, right? Because they coming at him so hard. But then at the same time, is he controlled opposition, right? Is he controlled opposition? Is he being played as that figure when in reality he's really not, right? He's got 4 years. Let's say he wins. he's not going to run again. He can come in and hammer in whatever rules, laws, whatever that he wants in place, that the state wants in place, that don't favor us, and they don't matter because he ain't running for re-election, right? So that is a dangerous thing that I always keep in the back of my mind, that maybe he's not the people's champion like he's portrayed to be, right? Or then it goes back to the same thing, right? These are foreign governments, right? China, North Korea, Russia, they don't want to deal with him as a leader, right? They want to keep the country of the US with weak leadership that they can influence very easy, right? Biden, unfortunately, has been showing some corruption with taking money from, Russia and these other places and yada yada, and Ukraine, all this crap, right? So there's a lot of ties there that could be being influenced by foreign governments. When Trump was in power, he had very good foreign relationships with people and making things very clear. This is how it's going to run. Whether
If not, I've got the codes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Right? It's like we can take it as far as you want to take it.
Right.
And Trump's been very anti-war, right? Trump has been, he basically said, he goes, if I get in day one, I'm trying to stop this Ukraine conflict, right? That doesn't play well into the military industrial complex. Right? They want to make money. They need conflicts to spend. They need more government spending on the defense budget so that they can get more stuff sold to the government and to these places. That doesn't happen if you have peace times. So that doesn't go well with them. So all these different reasons is why, foreign influence in military industrial complex doesn't like Trump very well for the whole peace talks, right? So
they push this propagandist effort to say anything and everything they can against him to basically get the public outraged. I'm going to call this right now. So Matthew Barnes just said mail-in ballots again everywhere, calling it now. So I don't doubt that, Matthew. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I'm going to call this right now. If Trump is allowed to run, no matter the outcome, I think, Crusader, we've talked about this. No matter the outcome, there's going to be not just outrage, there's going to be problems. Okay, like no matter what.
I mean, there's that famous meme, right, of the girl screaming when Trump won.
Oh yeah, yep.
And that was before Trump was as controversial as he is now.
Yep.
If he wins now, with everything that happened in J6, right, and everything that's been happening with the far left and Antifa, dude, it's gonna be wild. It is going to get crazy.
It is going to get wild. It is going to get crazy. Hey, right here, I want to touch this comment real quick, and then I'll continue on with that. Like this kind of stream, guys. People need real talk, not propaganda. And I do want to throw this out there. If you guys have listened to Crusader and I talk for any amount of time, the direction we lean. Okay, but the reality is, even with both of us having conservative viewpoints, we want to have the real conversations. You just heard us say that Vivek Ramaswamy could be part of effectively the deep state and be basically a plant. We want to just literally take the information at hand and try to kind of filter through it. We don't want to give you just this Republican channel or this conservative channel or whatever. We want to talk about the real things that are happening and the possibilities, just like Crusader was also talking about with Donald Trump. Is he controlled opposition? Is he there actually because they have game plans, for him, or on the flip, you know what I mean? We want to have those real conversations. So smash that like if you haven't already. Make sure that you guys turn on the bell notifications. For now, we're going to be on Sundays. We might talk about Crusader.
This is how transparent we're going to be. I'm going to say here on episode 1, I'm a registered Democrat.
Oh my God.
There you guys have it. That's how planted I am in this, right?
I know you so well, and I never knew that.
Yes, I am a registered Democrat. I voted for Sanders over Hillary. There you guys have it.
I wouldn't have voted for Hillary no matter what. But
hey, I took a lot of flack for saying that I voted for Sanders.
I would have never voted for Hillary, no matter what. So I wouldn't give you crap for that. But yeah, but it's the same thing, right? With you, Crusader, as it is with Joe Rogan. They keep moving the line.
Oh yeah.
The line keeps moving, right? And listen,
right
and it moves
right extremist.
And yeah, exactly. But you know what? The funny thing is, and this is how we want to be just impartial. Both lines keep moving, because some of the things that you'll hear us talk about also on the conspiratorial side and the things that we talk about very likely could be just that. And we recognize that, right? but we want to have the conversation. So that's what we're here for. So make sure that you guys like share this out. Let people know that we're doing this. We're excited about it. We're going to be giving away some t-shirts. We're going to be doing some stuff with the DCA community that we're, you know, we're
50K,
excited.
not 50K, 50 subs. Once
50
we get
subs.
50 subs, we're going to give away a Danger Close shirt.
Yeah. So we're excited to kind of start just kind of doing some stuff with the community. We've got a lot more at hand than we're doing with that, but you know, we'll start off with that and kind of start seeing what you know, what people think of the channel. Okay, so back to it. So at the end of the day, if Donald Trump is able to run, I do you think that he will get elected?
Man, it's going to be tricky, right? Because now we got to flip to the Democratic side. Is Biden going to show up again? I don't think so.
God, no.
I don't think so. I think the state wants him out. I think so too. I think the fold. Let's go back to our NFT project. I think the fold wants him out. They've been leaking all this information, right? Making him look bad, right? With his son and all the different ties that he has to make sure that he does not run. And they're going to give him a deal. Hey, if you want to protect your legacy, you got to bow out. You got to hit the road, Jack.
Okay, so who fills the slot?
So then we got
RFK?
Right?
No.
No way they're gonna put RFK on the stage, bro.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. There's no way. So who do they put there?
They're not gonna. They don't want Biden on a debate because he can't even stand up straight.
You don't want Harris stepping up because she freaking can't explain.
She's like
she's the worst.
She's the least liked VP, I think, in all of history.
Oh, I can see why. She's terrible.
Statistics. Like that's a statistic. Go look it up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw that.
She's
somewhere.
terrible. You're not wrong about that. She's terrible.
She's not going to run up there. She's not going to speak. She speaks terrible. When she speaks, she doesn't make any sense. She's talking in circles. You have no idea what she's talking about half the time. Ever.
You could sit for 20 minutes and listen to her, and
she says nothing.
She doesn't say anything.
She says a lot of words that don't mean anything.
Oh God, this would be a terrible one. Gavin Newsom.
But yes, this guy. Yes, I agree with this. Why? Because he's a likable guy. When he talks, he looks like a regular human being. People can relate to him, even though his state is falling apart, right? And he has done terrible, right? And everybody knows it. He can still cover that up, right, with the support of the DNC and really get him pushed ahead and make himself a likable, relatable guy. Obviously, the lefties are all going to be like, yeah, right. They're all going to like him. So I think he is a good replacement. Obviously, I don't want him to win. I would love to see him in RFK debate, but are they ever going to let RFK debate? I don't think so. So who else is he going to be running against? Yeah, I honestly believe that they're going to keep the Democratic side of things with no debates ever. They're going to keep Biden in as long.
Well, they've already said they don't plan on doing any.
Yeah,
they've already talked about it.
They don't want Biden showing up. Right.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep that structure because of Biden as long as possible. And then Biden at the very end is going to bow out some way, somehow. And then it's already been too late into the cycle to make any real debates or anything happen. And all the momentum is already going to be in Newsom or whoever it is, and they're going to shift it that way.
Okay. So one last question on this, and we'll move on to the next topic. So let's say Trump can't run. Who do you think?
We're in trouble.
Who do you think would be who do you think would be the nominee? Could you see Ramaswamy like getting it?
No.
You don't think that they're going to support him because he's so verbally anti-agenda? Unless he is, like we said, the plant that the WEA put in there or whatever.
If he does win, I'm 100% convinced he's the plant. Right? Like he is controlled 100% because ain't no way this guy that comes out of nowhere is going to win. And everybody's be like, oh, Trump did it in 2016. But Trump was already well established in the political game, right? Having all kinds of dinners, all kinds of money, sending money left here and right. He was very well connected and a very well known person already. And unfortunately, elections nowadays run by popularity. So he sounds great, but like I said, once again, the hardcore base of the Republican Party is that Bible Belt, and they're not going to vote for him. They're not going to vote for ramen salami. So if Trump is not involved, I think by default it could be DeSantis, and they could just try to prop him up as much as possible. But man, I don't think I want him. I don't think I want him as president. I don't think he can handle it. I don't think he can do it.
What concerns you?
If he's stiff and scared to talk to the American people on the public stage of the debate, how is he going to handle Russia? How is he going to handle China?
He talks as if he would, for
Yeah,
sure.
he talks like he would, but talk is cheap, man. Chat GPT can do a lot of talking too.
Yeah.
You know, so I
Well,
don't know.
that's why I and I've told people this before.
I don't
That's
think
why
Pence can win. I don't think
no,
Pence wins at
no,
all.
absolutely not. No, he's too, I hate to say this, but he's too Christian on that side of things in terms of like he brings that into like all of his politics a lot. I don't think people like
that's the
it.
problem. I think it's the
I don't think
fact
people
that
like it.
he betrayed Trump. I don't think
Oh, I see that
the
too, for
Republican
sure.
voters will
For sure.
not forgive that.
No, yeah, for sure, for sure. So I think that if Trump's allowed to run, I think he will win, but I think no matter what happens, there is going to be controversy in the streets because there's been so much division created in our world, which we're going to talk about a lot more of that as we continue on with the stream onto these next topics. There's been so much division created people. This is the point. This is why we're trying to have the conversations and try to look at all sides of it, because we're not trying to create division. We're just trying to have real conversations. Like, what does this look like? Okay. So yeah, I think we're in for a wild ride no matter what. The mail-in voting, I think probably will absolutely be a reality. We'll see what that looks like. Mandates and stuff we're going to talk about as well. So smash the like if you haven't already. Again, turn on the bell notifications. Make sure you guys are following
we got
us.
like 14, 15 people in here. Numbers are going up. We got like 25 subs now. We're halfway to the t-shirt giveaway.
Halfway to the t-shirt giveaway. Let's keep it going. Okay. BRICS nations. Let's talk about BRICS. Let's talk about BRICS, not those type of BRICS, Crusader, not from not from Colombia. We're talking about the BRICS nations. Okay. All right. So check this out. So the BRICS nations are rich with oil and instability, right? What'd you say?
Zoom in.
Oh yeah. The BRICS group of developing nations has invited 6 countries to join the bloc. South African president, not even going to try that name, Cyril Ramaphosa, announced during its annual summit today. That was the 24th. 3 of the additions, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and the UAE, are among the top 10 oil-producing countries in the world. Argentina, Egypt, and Ethiopia will also be admitted to the group as it seeks to increase the geopolitical influence of countries in the global south on the world stage. Okay, on its face, BRICS nations, real deal, not real deal. Does holding 40%? So this is the stat. At this time, they have 4 of the top 10 producers of oil in the world stepping into basically. What is it?
I think it's 6 of the 9. 6 of the look. Let me share my screen real quick. This comes from BRICS on Twitter. 6 of the 9 world's largest oil producers.
Okay, even more
of BRICS.
Okay, so 2/3 of the world's largest oil producers are now moving to basically an organization that's saying screw the United States. I've also heard people, and I've seen people absolutely bash me in comments. They bashed you, Crusader, in comments, talking about how BRICS isn't the real deal. Don't worry about it. How can you not look at China and Russia on its face, just those two, kind of pushing towards each other, and not see that could be a major problem for the United States? Now you add oil to the whole deal in a massive, massive sense. I think this is a problem, right? Saudi Arabia made a deal with us. I forget the year that it happened, but we had a deal to basically give them military protection. It was a long time ago. This is where basically the petrodollar came from. We agreed to give Saudi Arabia military protection in exchange for using the U.S. dollar for oil. Settle in U.S. dollars on oil. Okay, a lot of people don't know this is where a lot of the wars came from. We can say that we went into different countries and different things for different reasons, but the reality is we fight about oil an awful lot. Now we have 6 of the top 9 oil producers in the world moving over to a group that's kind of getting anti-American. Crusader, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, before I give you the thoughts, I just want to say I put a poll out there to see who would they vote for: Vivek, DeSantis, Pence, or Nikki. Because I could only put 4 options.
Yeah.
71% Vivek, ramen.
Because he said
ramen.
because he says what people, at least the people that we know probably are watching our stream more often than not. He's saying what people want to hear.
Yeah. I got a poll out there. Is the BRIC nations a real problem? So vote on that, yes or no. So my thoughts are yes. My thoughts are the BRIC nations are a real threat. I've gotten a lot of hate on TikTok talking about the BRIC nations declaring war on the US dollar. They are out to start making settlements for oil within their own national currencies, stepping away from the US dollar. Once again means that the sanctioning power of the US dollar is diminishing. Now with the oil production, a large percent, what is this, 30%, 40% of the worldwide oil producers are going into BRICS. Dude, they're not for America. They're not for the US dollar. That means higher gas prices for us. That's going to mean worse deals when it comes to energy sectors in oil for us, because they are aligning with China.
And we're not producing because we're doing this leftist freaking green energy.
Whatever it is,
whatever.
We're not producing, so we have to go to them, and they're going to be like, well, our new partners don't really want us selling you oil for this number, or they don't really want us taking US dollars anymore for oil. So we're going to take, yuans or rupees or whatever it is that they're using, or, whatever other currency, if they create their own currency. That's not good for the dollar. That's not good for America. So it is a serious problem that people need to be keeping an eye on. And, Russia and China are already a handful on their own. Now they're aligning with all these smaller countries, building an alliance, right? Building a larger scale. And we're only focused right now on these big oil nations that joined, but I believe they got like 40 countries on the way.
It's a lot
to get in there, right?
Yeah.
So there's a big movement to go towards the BRICS nations and their alliance. So as their alliance continues to grow within this decade, it's going to be a serious problem.
Yeah. And they're continuing to stack silver. They're continuing to stack gold. They are backing their currencies, or at least trying to put a reserve together with hard assets. Will it be Bitcoin, Matt?
What if they're the first ones? What if they get
doubt it? But that would be that would be a freaking game changer,
dude. What if they start going towards Bitcoin before America does? With all these,
it'd be just another time we got beat to the punch because we were too freaking wrapped up in ourselves. That's what it would be. Too wrapped up in just our policies and how we want to handle and control and all of the things that have got us to where we are today. I think that you're talking about two superpowers as it comes to, in terms of like military power. I think that you can't discount China and Russia. I don't think that you can. Then you add the fact that you're basically taking all of this oil production, which, like I stated, we're effectively not producing oil, and we have a ton of freaking oil, all in the name of this green energy initiative, which we've debunked this how many times? This is very, very simple on its face. Go ahead.
Talking about that, I was hearing something very interesting on the Joe Rogan podcast yesterday on my drive. He had Mike Baker on the podcast. He's an ex-CIA operative or director or whatever it was, whatever his title was. And he was talking about that. He believes it's very likely, right, that it could be that the green push happening in America is a diversion tactic from foreign policies, from China, from these other countries that have implanted this idea into the United States to divert us from oil production, from producing minerals within the state, within the country itself, to make us dependent on energy on them. And that's how the ideals, right, happen, right? It's just how they talked about Facebook, how Russia was running all these groups, right? All these Russian bots were in these groups and whatever. That could be a very good reason why a lot of these activist groups get a lot of funding. And they, they're a small group, but they have a very loud presence and voice. It's because they're being funded and pushed by some of these foreign countries to really get a big movement happening here to, at the end of the day, cut our legs off from under us.
Well, I mean, this is a problem though, because ultimately, the green energy initiative gets pushed on us and on other countries and whatever, but on its face, when you start breaking it down, a lot of you have probably heard us talk about this before, on its face, none of it makes sense. Solar uses so much more land. You need all of this crazy amounts of oil to actually transport to basically get things from point A to point B. The facts are the windmills are not a positive. They die out faster than they actually produce a like carbon positive, metric. None of it makes sense. The batteries are mined with slave labor. You'd have to shoot them off to the moon to get rid of them. Our electrical grid can't handle what we have going on as it is, but we're going to push everybody to electric cars. What? Like, none of it makes sense. Okay. But the reality is when other countries see that nothing that we're doing makes sense, they see it as an opportunity. It's like kids on the playground when they see, or shark or blood in the water with sharks. When they see it, when they sense it, they're going to go after it. They're going to converge on it. They're going to say, hey, what's the weak spots here? Where's the weak point? And the weak point with the United States right now is we're all busy fighting each other on everything from man, woman, black, white, gay, straight, old, young, all of these things that don't matter for our actual policies within the United States. We're all too busy virtue signaling to realize that our dollar is failing, and we have other countries that have massive amounts of control over the oil production across the world, which we need to be able to continue our execution of just business in general. And then you're right, Crusader, we're already very, very dependent on all these other countries. Why would we not want energy independence? Why would we not want to have to, not rely on all these other countries? Because the moment that we have to genuinely rely on them, which we've already beaten up a ton of our oil reserves, all of that stuff that's been happening, which blows my mind that we even did that. The moment that we genuinely are full on relying on these other countries and they rug pull us and they pull the rug out and say, gotcha, you know what are we going to do?
Yeah,
because we need oil.
I think we've been rugged as a country. We've been a target for a very long time, and we've talked about planting certain people in certain chess pieces in certain places. I think that has happened, and by doing that, certain people have gotten into power, certain groups have gotten certain movements going, and that has led us to be a weaker country in the long term. Being energy dependent on other countries, it is a huge crutch that is not beneficial for the country of America at all. And the fact that we've talked about not being dominant in some of these sectors has really led us to decline as a country. And I think it's part of the fall of the empire for that reason. And I think it all comes from, I don't want to say it, but I'm gonna say it. The damn commies, bro. There's commies in the country, right? That are running certain positions of power, that are taking us down one notch at a time, and it's happening live. But so it's almost like the Bitcoin adoption. Oh, when are we going to see Bitcoin massive adoption? We're living it, right? So it feels like it's not happening yet, but we are living. You just got to look back. If you look at what's happening with the country, the commies have been taking over slowly but surely. So if you accumulate all of it, you're like, oh my God, right? I was talking to this with my parents the other day, and they say, like, I never thought that at this age of I'd be dealing with communism again, right? And that's what's happening in the country now.
Yeah, because Cuba, I mean, you guys are familiar, obviously, with what that looks like.
Very familiar.
So your parents believe that. So your parents see what's happening, and they're comparing that, right?
Yes. They believe the country is in complete decline, and we are living under communist times in America right now. Things are great because you still got food, you got entertainment, right? The circus is still playing, all this stuff, so you can get distracted and just like, oh, I'm just not going to pay attention to it. But policy-wise, power-wise, things are very bad.
Yeah, they keep us entertained with football and basketball and baseball and hockey and all of these other sports and events and The Bachelor and all of these just dumb shows on TV and in Netflix, Hulu. Anything to keep you distracted. It's like the Romans when they would do the gladiator events. The whole point, the whole point was, hey, get all these people distracted while we make decisions. The difference between communism and socialism is just the method of takeover. And I think we've almost taken a socialism step towards communism, right? Where we kind of are basically putting, because what I meant by that is with socialism, it's basically, hey, you gain a whole bunch of political power in a certain area and let people basically vote themselves into the idea. And that's where we're at right now, where we're virtue signaling and offering all of these ideas and pushing it on people and putting it into books and the kids and the teachers unions and all of this stuff that's happening. Whereas communism is just complete screw. We're getting violent. We're just going to take over. Right. And I think that as we talk about here in a little bit, some of the mandates and pushing that stuff is more on the communistic side of things. Whereas right now, politically, it's this whole idea of socialism. And you'll hear people on TikTok and everywhere else argue that socialism would be great and all of these this just terrible ideas, if you ask me, but whatever. You're going to hear people say it. I actually heard Tim, what does he call himself now? Inverse News.
Yeah, whatever he calls himself.
Saying that we need a dictator.
He wants a dictator.
That he wants a dictator. And I think it's an interesting conversation. He's basically saying that we have so many stupid people in this country that know nothing about politics. They know nothing about policy, yet they're voting on it. And in that regard, I will agree with him. That's things kind
of how the founding fathers set up the country, for only the educated to like be the ones responsible of voting versus the people.
Yeah, exactly. But we're at a point now where you can hear it from people. They say things that absolutely, if you just brought out a fact sheet and showed them like, hey, that has never worked anywhere. That won't work here. It hasn't worked there. Here's the information on what you're talking about. But we're so focused on feelings.
It will this time.
It's feelings. We've come to this state where everybody's so soft and we just focus on here's how I feel about it.
The people in power have learned that it's easy to manipulate people into feeling a certain type of way. And meanwhile, they feel it, they are convinced. And meanwhile, they're convinced they're not going to, walk away from that idea, no matter how many facts are presented. And they can get dumb people to vote themselves into bad situations because they believe or feel that that is actually the good thing to do. And I think that's what's happened. So then comes the situation. Okay, only educated people can vote. What does that mean? What does educated mean?
Well, I like what Ramaswamy said.
I
like what Ramaswamy said. If you're a foreigner and you want to get your full, you want to be a legalized American citizen, you have to pass effectively a citizenship test, right?
Yep.
So I don't hate that idea. At least prove that you know what the hell's going on. And if you do, then okay. Cool. That's civics test. Pass a civics test. Simple. And I know that most people are too lazy to do it, right? So, and then the people that are true patriots will want to do it. You want to know the reason they don't want to do that?
Dude, they don't want people to have voter IDs.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They want the stupid votes. They want the people that can be manipulated.
That's why the border's open.
Feelings.
That's why.
Yes.
Pack the people in.
Come on in. Pack them in. We'll tell them that we did this for them. And then when it's time to vote, hey, remember what I did for you? That's exactly what's happening. 100%. There's no doubt about it. Get as many dumb people as possible to vote for me because I made them feel good, or I did a certain thing that felt good, or did something good for their family on its face, so that we can continue to stay in power. And then, oh, by the way, once we get in power, we're not going to do anything we promised you we were going to do. We just told you that so that we could get your vote. And that's kind of where we're at. And so the BRICS nations are recognizing that. Back to kind of the topic, the BRICS nations are realizing the fact that we are crumbling. The BRICS nations are realizing that, hey, the U.S. is slowly, or steadily, I should say, declining. We need an alternative. We need to back into something different. And this is where they're headed. And so I think, yes, it is a very real threat to what's happening in our world today. And I think we need to pay very, very close attention to it. I've been down to Brazil multiple different times. They love Americans like the American people. But when you talk to anyone down there about things that are happening, I will tell you this, they are absolutely oblivious to most anything and everything that's happening over here. And when you tell them, they're almost like, well, that's like the people that I've talked to anyway, they think it's a ridiculous, like, what? You guys are arguing about what? What's on the news? You guys are able to do this, that, the third. Yeah, this is real life, and it's like turned into a soap opera, as opposed to, hey, how do we effectively govern our society? How do we get ourselves back into an economic state where our dollar is actually doing something good for us, where the people are able to actually participate in what's happening in the country? And that's not where we're at right now. We're basically moving towards that communistic idea of like, hey, we're going to take over.
Brett says, I think some of the stuff makes more sense as a long-term play as technologies improve and we're built for it, but at the rate they are pushing it now, it doesn't make sense. don't understand what he says that doesn't make sense. So I hope you can clarify in the chat. It's not too complex. What you mean doesn't make sense right now. I would like to hear that.
Yeah, for sure. Smash the like if you haven't already, guys. Again, Danger Close Alpha podcast. We're going to be here on Sundays. We might switch up maybe and do the Danger Close Alpha podcast at noon, and then do DCA, and then do Debate Crypto. I don't know. We'll talk about it. We'll kind of figure out where people are at. But for right now, 1 o'clock on Sundays. We're glad that you guys are here. You could be anywhere, but you're hanging out with us, so we appreciate it. All right, let's move on to the blue umbrellas, brother. Many of you have heard. All right, what's going on or has been going on over in Hawaii, and it's not good. Okay, there's a lot of questions. People have questions. So this is a very interesting thing. There's a TikTok that went viral. Okay, I don't have the actual TikTok on me. Maybe, I don't know, Crusader, if you have it or not, but I'm gonna at least show it. So the Maui, right? Maui, the stuff going on over in Maui. There's this conspiracy theory, right, where these lasers that effectively what do they call them? A directed energy weapon, right?
Yeah, DEWs, direct energy.
Yeah, direct energy weapons. The frequency basically will burn, as you can see. I'll zoom in. As you can see right here, it will burn all of these colors. But when you see this video, it goes across, and you can see the laser smashing on this blue, and it doesn't do any freaking thing. So then we look over to here. All of these cars gone. This car, the blue one, Now we scroll over here. We have this absolutely decimated, but every blue umbrella is in good shape. All right, so Crusader, there's a lot that's happening over there. First of all, to all the families that have lost people or have people that are missing right now, our heart goes out to you. Prayers to you and your family. What happened over there, no matter how it happened, is a tragedy, and we're praying for you. I want to make that really clear. We're not going to make light of what's happening over there, because it's no joke whatsoever. However this happened, it's not a joke, and it's really sad. So our prayers and thoughts go out to all of you. But there's some really interesting topics, and some of the topics surround. So this was one of them. There was a number of very, very wealthy individuals that everything around their homes were burnt to a crisp, but not theirs. Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos. There was a third big one too.
There's a few others.
There's a few of them, and their properties were not touched. Now, a couple of them coincidentally had blue roofs. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I've also seen some really high dollar homes that have these blue roofs. So I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, it's just
the color blue just keeps coming up.
What a coincidence, right?
So do you think, Crusader, that really our government is evil enough to want land so bad and be so intertwined and in bed with the elites that they would actually? So look, the water was off that day. The kids got sent home from school, but people are arguing, well, it was because of the high winds. Okay, I could get on board with that. Okay, cool. But they did not sound the alarm. They would not give water. And then the head of one of their departments literally was unapologetic about the fact that for not sounding the alarm, for one, because it's tsunamis, right? And then told them that water was not. How did he say this? He said water is a precious resource that is not just basically to be freely distributed. We're talking about a fire that's claiming probably thousands of lives ultimately, because there's a ton of people that are just missing when we know they're probably not missing. So again, our hearts go out to them. But ultimately, could you see our government really doing this?
Yeah. So like you said, right, this is definitely not a joking matter at all. This is very serious. Whether it was our government or a rogue government or a rogue nation or player or whatever, right? These weapons exist. They are real. You can look them up. They have been talked about by our country. It is a well-known fact that these weapons exist. This is not a conspiracy theory. The conspiracy theory is the color blue thing, right? About the blue not burning and it being a signal for some of these elites, right? So who did it? I don't know. And I'm not going to claim to know that the government did it or anything like that. All I'm going to say is very suspicious things have happened since it happened, right? Certain things did not burn. Other things clearly melted away. The elites have come in and trying to buy up land at this point. And people are going to say, well, yeah, that naturally happens when there's a big catastrophe, right? The big players come in and buy up land. Well, let me tell you, There was a big hurricane that demolished Fort Myers, very close by where I live. BlackRock did not come. Oprah Winfrey did not come. Let me tell you, they didn't come. But that on the side, who did it? Don't know. It happened. It's serious, and there is definitely a lot of different other aspects. People from the government of Maui have come out and said that they want to buy up the land. The government wants to buy up the land and create a smart city, right? We know what those 15-minute smart cities are all about: control. And it's definitely something that I believe there's another fire in Hawaii currently happening right now too, in a different island. I saw that on the news somewhere yesterday.
Why start there? If this indeed was what happened, why start there? Is it because it's not on the mainland, or like because you see all this happening in Canada, and there's been some suggestions in Canada that a lot of that is pushing people out of their homesteads and in towards big cities and whatnot. Why start, for example, in the US offsite?
Yeah, I think not being on the mainland makes it a good target to experiment with these smart cities, to experiment, because you're going to have a small group of people that have nowhere to go. They're not going to leave. They've been there their entire lives. They're not going to fly to the mainland. And then you're going to force this upon them. And it's all about keeping it out of public's eye, right? Nobody's going to be talking about the 15-minute smart cities that are going to be built in Hawaii and how good or bad they are in the mainland. Nobody's going to be really focusing until they have a narrative to push. And meanwhile, people, you don't just drive by and I'm driving from one state to the next. And wait a minute, what's this smart city doing here? What the hell's going on? Right? You're not going to do that. You're not going to experience that. So I think it being isolated is a good reason to be out there, out of the public's eye, for them to experiment with whatever technologies they want to play with. Same thing of, if this scenario was created by a DO weapon, right? Why Hawaii? Out of the public's eye, out of the mainland, right? They didn't just hit Florida. They didn't just hit Washington, D.C., right? Like, why not?
Out of sight, out of mind, and the news crews would have to physically
narrative.
Fly over there. You could control that narrative much more effectively. But what we're seeing is like people coming up on TikTok and on YouTube and all these different places that are saying, hey, none of this makes sense. The alarms don't make sense. The water doesn't make sense. The kids being off of school has been partially, supposedly debunked. But when there is smoke, no pun intended here, when there's smoke, there's fire. And the reality is there's a lot of smoke surrounding this whole ordeal. Then you have
don't happen.
Yeah, and then you have Joe Biden on freaking vacation, and when asked about the Maui fires, no comment. Really? We have thousands of people unaccounted for that are probably dead, and we have a president of the United States with a no comment.
One of the largest fires in, I think, the entire history.
Then let's take it one step further.
He goes out there and says, my house almost burned down.
He talks about his kitchen fire, right? Or whatever. But let's go one step further than that. He leans over to pet this dog. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but the dog has on little booties, okay? Like little socks, little shoes for his paws, right? And he says, "Hey there, buddy. I'll bet you would have on those boots. This ground is probably pretty hot, isn't it?" And I literally, if it wasn't so disgusting, I was beside myself. I was like, is he did really? And then you can see on the one news broadcast, they say, "Oh, we got to go over," and they literally like pan away from him as he's saying this because they recognize, oh my God, the most insensitive thing ever to people losing their lives from your president of the United States. I don't know. Again, our hearts go out to everybody over there. Is the color blue have something to do with it? Hey, we at least want to talk about it.
Anything's possible, man. These technologies are right now. You see it, right? Let's just not talk about Maui, but let's just talk about the technology itself. You see that video and you're like, it's probably fake, right? Why the color blue? Like, what's so special about it? But these technologies are advancing so fast, so quickly that a lot of the stuff that are happening sounds like it's impossible. Sounds like it's Fugazi. Sounds like it's magic. Oh, this is just some magical things that are happening, right? The frequency, whatever, doesn't like the color blue, but it's real. It is real. People have developed technologies, right? We talked about the military-industrial complex. There's technologies on the black books that we have never even imagined could exist and are out there and are doing stuff. And once they, like nobody thought 30, 40 years ago GPS was going to be a thing, that everybody was just going to have GPS on their phone, and everywhere you went, people had GPS. Be like, GPS was it's going to track you from space where you are and tell you the exact location you are on the planet.
Yep.
Right? No way that's going to happen. Right? Talk to people in the 50s. They didn't believe that was going to happen. Now, right? Then they introduced it. You have to buy this big old bulky device, right? Only some people had it. Now everybody has it on their phone, right? So it's these things that sound impossible are very possible. Just like the UFO topic, right? There's a lot of conspiracy about it being created by man, right? It is part of, like, whether they've reversed engineered it or they created it themselves and they're just drones flying around in these high speeds and angles and all that stuff. It is just human technology that we are not aware of as being human, because it breaks our programming of what we believe is possible. Yeah.
And programming is a great word to use, because that's effectively what's happening, especially if you're watching any sort of news at this point in time. You're being programmed, right? And I'm not saying that just to the left. I'm saying that to the right. I'm saying it to everybody in between. If you're paying attention to a specific news source and only that news source, and you're not paying attention to what people are saying real world on the ground that are there and actually like are witnessing what's happening, then you probably need to change your strategy for how you're getting your information. It's one of the reasons that they buried the TikTok ban into this defense spending budget that's coming up, because on its face, you would approve this defense spending budget with all that's going on. But why would you bury that in page 87 of the document? Well, you buried in there because they're tired of people having the conversations that we're having right now. They're tired of people starting to genuinely realize that, oh my gosh, like, we really do have real problems that are happening, and our government is not for us at this point.
Yeah. So we got a great question here. We got a great question by Crypto Mud. Says, what should the priorities of the president be? Currently, focusing on America, making America the best country in the world should always be number one priority of the United States. By being number one and being a true republic of freedom, right, you can help every other country in the world by extension of that. But by not being number one and by declining as a country, we lose power to help other countries. By allowing the BRIC nations to rise against us, we lose that possibility. So I think that should be its main priority, is focusing on the people, preserving life, making the country the best it is, not sending our people out into these conflicts all around the world to steal resources from other countries and, kill our youth. Like, that shouldn't be the thing, but that's what they want with Ukraine.
Yeah. There are our monetary policy definitely needs revamped. We need to figure out how the heck we're going to get out of a position where we owe so much debt, where we can't even pay the interest on the debt that we have. That's got to be a priority. A real priority needs to be, how are we going to get back together as a people? So much division has been created purposefully. If a true president came in that genuinely cared about the people the way that I think a president of the United States should, it would be, how do we bring people together and truly together as a nation, and stop this mumbo jumbo about you're white, I'm black, you're old, I'm young, you're gay, I'm straight, you're whatever, I'm whatever. That has got to freaking go. We have got to realize that.
But can a president really stop that? Can our president really stop that kind of cultural divide?
I doubt it at this point, but what I think could happen, if you had a real person step into office that was able to fight some of the existential crisis that is these BlackRock, Vanguard, State Streets, WEF, from pushing these narratives down upon our media. If our media could get on board with the idea and not use it for clicks and use it for views, if our media could get on board and say, hey, let's genuinely bring people together, like this Rich Men North of Richmond, right? This song has all of a sudden just taking the world by storm from this guy out in the middle of nowhere singing in front of his tree stand, because it hits home with people, and people are realizing like how much truth is involved in that. If we could have the news media, as an example, start to push a narrative of bringing people together instead of pushing them apart, because what do we see? We see a left news media talking about how bad we need to defund the police, and how Black Lives Matter, and how the right-wing extremists are hating on the LGBTQIA whatever alphabet soup gang. All of the, even just me saying the alphabet soup gang, like making light of that and just kind of making a joke, like it's the same idea, right? It's me tongue in cheek making fun of or not liking what's happening with one agenda or another. Why does everything have to be an agenda? Why can we not say, hey, listen, our country is screwed up right now. We need to figure out a way to bring people together so that we can have a strong workforce, a truly strong labor force that's not manipulated by numbers, get our dollar back in order, and get ourselves back to where we are energy independent. I think those three things right there. And then ultimately the biggest thing, whether people want to hear this or not, God and the nuclear family. Like, we have taken that totally out of life as we know it. When we look back to the 50s, when we look back to the 60s, the reason that things were so good overall was because the family unit, that structure was there, right? And God was still in God we trust. It wasn't, hey, take that out of the schools, right? Even if you believe in a different God or whatever, right, there is someone out there. My question to you would be, when people say that there's no God, my question would be like, are you God? Well, no. Okay, so if you don't believe that you're God, do you believe that there's something more powerful than you out there? Okay, yes, I do. Okay, well then if you believe that you're not God and there's something more powerful out there, could you believe the idea that there is, whatever it may be, some sort of God that has our greater good at mind? Well, then, yeah, I would think that you would be able to come on board with that. Okay, if we can get on board with that, now why can't that God, that family unit, all of that come together and be able to help press our economy and our people forward?
There's no God in the nucleus of the family. There is no family unit. The state is raising children, right?
Yeah.
Now back in the 50s and stuff, women were not mainly working all the time, so they would stay home, right? You could provide one salary, could provide for the entire family, buy a house, buy a car, and pay all the bills, and still have leftover for vacation time, for whatever luxuries you wanted to oblige with. Now you need two salaries, so both of you need to be working. So who's taking care of the kids? Oh, the daycare is. Oh, the schools are, right? The schools programs or whatever. And what are the schools doing, right? The schools are being funded by these different government states to run certain narratives into the children. For when those children grow up, they're the same or worse than what happened before. And it's like, that
the
is
agenda.
That's part of the programming, right? There is no family unit. There is no coming together. There is no God. There is no any of that, because they don't want to believe in a hierarchy. They don't want to believe in this, because everybody's being oppressed by somebody else, right? And it's like
victim mentality.
That's just not the way it works. And it's been a proven concept that it's worked in the past, and that has pushed people to be the best form of people that's ever happened before. And like Ramen Salami said, the best governance ever has been the family unit. That is the way it should work. And it's just, unfortunately, we just don't have that right now. And that is definitely should be a priority.
And in fact, parents that are showing up to school board meetings to stand up for their children and say, hey, listen, I want to be able to teach my kids, are being taken out in cuffs, and they're being called, terrorists. It's
because what they're talking about is inappropriate, but it's appropriate for the schools to talk about it. It's appropriate for the children to hear it, but it's inappropriate for you as a grown adult to hear it in a formal meeting.
I loved they had a congressional meeting and a congressional hearing, and somebody pulled up one of the books that they had posted on the end cap of a freaking children's library, and opened it up and started reading from it. And they stopped her and said, whoa, that's totally... No, hold on. It's inappropriate for what? A bunch of adults to hear, but we're going to put it out there for not only put it out there, but we're going to push this on our children, but a congressional hearing can't hear because it's so inappropriate. That should be a red flag if I've ever heard one. I've heard people push against the idea that, well, the Republicans are trying to shut down, books and this, that, and the third. Nah, not from where I see it. They're trying to shut down the idea that these agendas are being pushed on children via some of these books, right? It's my job as a parent, Miguel, Crusader, you and I ultimately have young children, and we've talked about this a lot behind the scenes. We've talked about it a little bit on the stream, but ultimately, I don't like the world that they're being raised in, and I'm wondering, like, what is my child going to be learning? I can see from when I graduated high school 21 years ago, right? And I know what school looked like then versus what school looks like now versus what I hear my nephew, who is a junior in high school, telling me they're learning and or not learning or being told to do or not to do in the schools. That's only going to get exponentially worse if we don't do what we were talking about and get that family unit back in order, start pushing back on these old school ideals. But we've pushed it so far, so anti-patriarchy, so anti just this idea that everybody just needs themselves. It's this greedy, demonic idea that it's me. And then I'll figure it out. I don't need anybody else.
All about consuming and just think about yourself and how you're feeling. And it answers the question kind of for Crypto Mud says, can we pull it back together? He was reading an article about conservatives being bad. It's not about being conservative or libertarian or a liberal, because like we said earlier in the show, the line has been moved, that those terms have been redefined in the recent years very drastically. Like, Joe Rogan, he was a liberal. He was a liberal and still considers himself a liberal, but the people don't see him as a liberal anymore. And they now see him as a right-wing extremist because he likes guns, because he doesn't like the government telling him what to do, because he took ivermectin, right? Things like that. So those terms are being redefined, and I don't think we should continue falling under those terms and calling ourselves, oh yeah, I'm a conservative, oh yeah, because what it means today is not what it's going to mean tomorrow, what it meant yesterday. Those terms are changing. All we need to focus on, are we American? Are we patriotic? Are we God-fearing people, right? Do we want the best for people? Do we want the best for our country? Or do we want the best for the world? And what makes sense? That's what people should be working towards and be focusing on. Doesn't matter what you're stop picking teams. Stop picking teams on
what's your value set?
Yes.
What's your value set? I think that it would be incredible.
Morals.
I think it would be incredible if you sat down a group of people in a non-political sense that didn't know anybody's political affiliation and wrote out on paper without anybody being able to see. I've thought about this before. A list of questions. Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? Is morally right? So it's literally a set of moral values, and you just write down, is killing another human being right, wrong, morally? And basically go through a whole bunch of things that you would view as moral or immoral, right? So those are your choices: moral, immoral, and ultimately, I think that it'd be very interesting to see. I think it would be very interesting to see what people would do if they got together in that sense and wrote all this stuff down, what kind of the outcome would be. Because I think that a lot of people agree more than you think on a basic fundamental ideal, on just basic rights or basic kind of just things that are like, hey, this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. But we've made it so politicized that here we are. You know what I mean? So Crusader, if you need to do that real quick, I'll pull the little moon landing. I'll pull the little moon landing thing right now. So Crusader's going to run off for just 1 second. He'll be right back. So check this out. So supposedly, okay, now I want to be clear. If India landed on the moon recently, okay, and smash the like if you haven't already. We're having a great time here today. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. We know these streams are longer. They're intended to be. We've got a lot to get to, and we're kind of on the tail end at this point. So actually, we've still got two big topics after this one. This one's going to be quick, but we're going to be still talking about the upcoming lockdowns, mask mandates, and we're going to be talking about the Wanger group as well. So stick around. We'll probably wrap this up in the next 25 minutes or so. Okay, so did India land on the moon? Well, let me show you a little video, okay? Let me be clear. if India landed on the moon recently, okay, that they absolutely politicized and made this big deal. If they did, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not the footage, but this is the footage that they put out as their moon landing. You're not going to believe this. I'm telling you right now. When I saw this, I just was beside myself. This just watch for yourself. Here, let me pull this up. Here is supposedly the moon landing. Let me pull this down. Hold that thought. Here it is, right here. All right. Oh, great. We've got a freaking ad. Well, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen, for the ad because I obviously didn't realize that was on there. 5 more seconds.
What is going on here?
Good Lord. There's a freaking ad.
The altitude is being brought down from 800 meters. And we are nearing and approaching the lunar surface.
जी हाँ, आप अपने स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम
What is that? Okay.
People are applauding.
People are applauding.
Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
Okay.
Bro. They must have landed that on the metaverse. That must be a metaverse moon landing.
Dude, sorry, I'm trying to stop it.
There's just no way. I'm not saying they didn't land on the moon. They could have landed on the moon for real. But whatever they showed on there, that was in the metaverse, bro. That was not the real moon landing.
The technology that we have today, ladies and gentlemen, that looked like a 1988 video game. Okay, maybe 1994. Yeah, Griff said, "What video game is that?" Yeah, so I don't know the details behind this, but there's a lot of kind of people that have been talking about this on the internet, saying like, "Hey, wait a minute, like that doesn't even kind of look real. So what are they showing us here?"
Who they send the head of that station to land there that was recording from the moon itself?
Exactly. Exactly.
Who's recording that?
And it's like this little spaceship that literally is it like asteroid?
A rover or whatever.
What was the game that it literally looks like
Space Invaders?
Space Invaders or Galaga? Like it looked like a freaking little ship from Galaga that was coming down. Like, dude, we know what it looks like. We know what a pod looks like. We know what the video quality is today. If you got somebody up there and you're pulling footage like that, first sandbox moon landing. Yeah, exactly, right? It was a metaverse moon landing. And they're like, hey, everybody very happy. Like, I just,
they might have landed there for real. I hope they do. They tell us what's in the dark side of the moon. But that video was not real. That was
not it.
Like,
so
dude,
we're gonna leave it at that. Just thought we'd have some fun with touching on that. Hey, you want to end with the lockdowns and mandates and hit the Wagner group real quick?
Yeah.
Let's hit the Wagner group real quick. All right, so a lot of you may or may not have heard about what was happening with the Wagner group over in Mother Russia. Wagner chief Yevgeny Prigozhin, that's how you say it. Yeah, Yevgeny Prigozhin, presumed dead after Russia plane crash. There he is, right there. It's a lot of question marks around this, but he was a Russian mercenary. He was on the passenger list of a jet which crashed in Russia, killing all 10 people on board, their civil aviation authority says. Social media linked Wagner to a mercenary group, says his private plane was shot down by Russian air defenses. He died as a result of action of traitor to Russia, the Gray Zone Telegram posted. Okay, Crusader, without me breaking this whole article down, who is he? What the heck was going on here? And why is there some question marks on this one?
Right. The whole thing is back last year or earlier this year, he led his mercenary group against Russia. Right.
Yes.
And went all the way up to or very close to Moscow, to the point where Putin actually fled Moscow. Mm-hmm. They came to terms. Eventually, they broke a deal. They backed off. They left. Right. And he was promised that he was not going to be treated as a traitor, that everything would be good and business will continue as normal. And then that they would start fighting for Russia against Ukraine. And now he was in a private jet, and obviously jet got shot down. Whether it was shut down by Russian forces or not, I don't know. Long story short, the guy's dead. There's rumors that he's faked his death before, and it'd be a smart move for a mercenary leader to fake his death and get
against
out of
Russia. Oh yeah,
against Russia to get out of there and not be a target. So it'd be smart of him. It'd be kind of dumb that he didn't see this coming after going against Putin, the guy that does not forgive. Right? He definitely does not forgive. So it wouldn't be dumb for him to actually fake his death. But if he didn't, and it actually happened. Now the Wagner group is very obviously angry and upset about what happened. And now I'm hearing the rumors that they are, getting ready to go back into Russia for another campaign. What that leads us to, I don't know. Right. But it's not good. It just means more conflict in Russia and Ukraine situation, which is no bueno.
Well, I'm going to make the assumption. Let's make the assumption that he actually did die. Let me show you this. This is why you don't probably, especially if you're over in Mother Russia, probably want to go against Vladimir Putin. There is a long list of people that met their untimely demise as a result of going against Putin. So you have Yevgeny Prigozhin, right? We know who he was. We just talked about him. Pavel Antov. He was a Russian tycoon. He reportedly fell from a hotel window. We've heard that one before in the United States. Rabel Magomov. He was a Lukoil chairman that had been openly critical of their invasion of Ukraine. Shortly after, he was the soonest termination of the armed conflict. He died by falling out of a window. Dan Rappaport, businessman, condemned the Russia-Ukraine war on social media, discovered dead in front of an apartment building. Mikhail, listen, this goes on and on and on and on.
We're going to go through this entire
hotel room.
We'll be here all day.
We'll be here all freaking day. But the reality is, anybody that goes against what and openly criticizes what Vladimir Putin's doing in the past has met an untimely demise. So, I agree with you. If he faked it and was able to actively fake it, there's suggestions that he has had multiple people change their name to Yevgeny Prigozhin. I don't know if you saw this one, Crusader, but I read this, that basically there was a group of his people that changed their names legally to Yevgeny Prigozhin so that he could flee, so that he could move around via basically passport, basically causing confusion within the different, well, yeah, that's my name, now they're looking over here. Well, oh, that's not him. That's a different Yevgeny Prigozhin. Whatever the case may be, that apparently he had a bunch of people do that, like legitimately, legally change their names to that for him. So I would think it would make sense, but at the same time, I could also see, obviously, Vladimir Putin, making sure that he's no longer around. All right, so cool. Let's end it off right now with the big thing in the air, or not in the air, that's not going to be helped by these masks that don't do anything. We have been pushed around for years. Okay, now let me be clear on this. Whatever you decide to do with yourself is your prerogative. Do your thing. I will speak for myself here, and I'm probably speaking for Crusader. You will not see me complying if this stuff happens. Okay, just going to be clear. And it has nothing to do with anyone else's health. Okay, there has been absolute evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence. My wife, she doesn't work as a nurse anymore. She takes care of our daughter, but ultimately was a nurse, and they literally openly admitted in the hospitals that, hey, you're only allowed to treat the C-19 patients if you have listen, it's not just the N95. It has to be actually fitted for you. You have to have a fit, what they call a fit test for these things, so that it is totally sealed. Okay. If it's not, these are aerosol borne molecules. Okay. They're like an aerosol. They are, first of all, the regular masks, or putting my t-shirt over my face, or whatever kind of craziness that they're telling you to do.
Yeah,
the molecules are too small. It's literally like throwing freaking marbles or not marbles, sand at a chain link fence. Like, it's going to go right through. And that's what's happening. So it's not about doing what's right for your neighbor. It's about allowing the government to push you around and control you. And I hope to God that this isn't actually going to come back, but it's starting. They've got campuses that are starting it. There's been word, obviously, from what's his face. We'll keep his name off here. AJ. Yeah, we'll say AJ said that he had from somebody from the TSA and somebody from Border Patrol, both of which are federal agencies that are both saying that, hey, this is going to roll back out. So, Crusader, what's the best way that you think that we, the people, can push back against what's happening?
I don't know, man. This is going to be interesting, right? Because you got to think about it, right? You got to question everything, trust nothing, right? So I don't want to deal with this crap again. I don't want to be wearing no damn mask. I don't want to be doing none of that. But you got to be thinking from the government's perspective. They obviously know how it played out the first time. It didn't have the long-lasting effect that they thought it was going to have, right? They didn't get to build out their fun camps here like they did in Australia, their summer camps. So they know these things. They learned, right? They gathered data from what happened the last 3 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And they have to recognize that they can't just go about it the same exact way that they did the last time, right? Enough fear all the time, and you become desensitized to the fear. And that's what happened, right? It was just constant fear. And to the point where people were just like, okay, if it's my time, it's my time. I'm just not going to deal with this anymore. You become desensitized to it. So they can't just roll out the same game plan. That is what concerns me, right? That they have a new game plan that they might actually release the crack in it, right? Like, okay, it's time to play real ball, right? They're not going to believe us unless they see results. And, that's my biggest concern. So I really hope that this is all fugazi and they're just messing with AJ and, making him want to look bad. And none of this actually rolls out. But it makes sense because the election cycle is coming to, the big finale this next year, and then the election happening in November and all this stuff. So it makes sense for the ballot voting and, the locking down of things. Like we said, whoever wins, there's going to probably be some massive craziness in the streets. So it also makes sense in that perspective. Like, hey, we're going to start locking things down to keep things contained as much as possible so that no matter who wins, we can control what happens because it's going to be wild. So there's that perspective as well. But my biggest hopes are that they don't release the Kraken. My biggest hopes are that,
and guys, to be clear, what he's saying about releasing the Kraken, so without getting us in trouble, he's saying that they release like something that actually really is a real deal threat to your children, first and foremost, to basically be the F you, you know what I mean? The finger in your face to all of you right-wing extremists that didn't want to play ball. Well, we're going to teach you, and it would effectively be the way that they would say, we told you so. And it's like freaking playground games, dude. Like just absolute, or a lot of women in particular, right? Can be very spiteful. It's almost like a spiteful gesture where they're like, okay, you didn't want to play ball before.
Where that comes from is because in another podcast, they covered it that I was listening to, that just how they had the I forgot what they call them now.
They're starting to push vax and mask again.
Yeah, the new boosters coming. The new boosters coming in, I believe, in October. And that makes money. They were just like how in 2019 they had that germ games. I forgot what they called it, what the term was for it, that kind of predicted the whole.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
they had another one recently, a few months ago, that did exactly that. Right, went and affected the children mainly, and that was the target of the whole thing. So that's where that idea comes from. That if they did it in 2019 and they released this information now again, is this the target for the next one? And they've been talking about it for a long time that there was going to be a 2.0, right? There was going to be a second. Fog around the world. So that's what concerns me. How do people protect themselves, dude? Do what's best for you, right? Yeah. Do what's best for you wherever you land on this spectrum. I don't want to see anyone die. I don't want to see anyone have whatever, but I also don't want to be getting an anal cavity search here without lubrication. Like there's no reason to allow this to happen. And there's no reason to allow the government to fearmonger you into compliance on something that just logically doesn't make sense for power, for control, right? That's what you see happening in dictatorship countries. What's his name? Weatherman. That's what happens in dictatorship countries, right?
Oh yeah.
That's why we don't want that here. So that's a serious problem. I don't know how people protect themselves. One, do what makes sense for you. It's as simple as that. Don't be bullied around into one or the other. I would say just use your common sense.
And understand too, and I agree with you. Use common sense, and common sense would tell you that, hey, if physiologically the math ain't mathing, then what are we actually doing?
Right? If the cloth doesn't work, why are you wearing it? Right? It's already been proven. They've come out, they released data that
including Pfizer
now.
Including Pfizer.
Yeah. You can look at the data now from the last 3 years on what worked and what didn't work. Right? Ivermectin was something that we announced on here. They recently came out, FDA lawyer saying, hey, this works for this thing. It was criticized during the fog, but it's not criticized now.
More than
mask
criticized.
thing was criticized, but it is proven that it didn't work either. So gather data, do your research on what worked and what didn't work in the last 3 years, and use that moving forward to what makes most sense for you. I don't know.
The problem that I think I have across the board is that, it was done not in the name of actual like health and safety for people. It was done in a really backwards way to gain money and control, just like everything else. The backwards things, the whole thing was an absolute sham. And the reality is when people push back and say, hey, like, but people died. Yeah. You know how many people die of the flu, that all of a sudden there was no flu anymore and nobody died from the flu, right? Ultimately, the reality is people die in unfortunate circumstances from viruses all the time, right? What does it really look like?
$29,000 for every flu death, but they get paid for the other one.
For the other one, yeah. So if this does get pushed out, I've got bail money ready. Okay, so I'm just letting everybody know. I am definitely prepared to educate anyone and everyone that tries to tell me to put it on. I will be overly happy to educate you on how wrong you are. And I think that I'm going to get to know my local police force very well as I continue to shop and do what I need to do. So I'm going to be that guy. Unfortunately, I'm just telling you now, not playing the little games anymore. Actually, I didn't really play him for about 2 weeks. I played him for like 2 weeks when it very first started, when nobody had any freaking information. Then I realized really quickly
that's the thing, right? The name of the game is gathering information. That's how you handle these situations in any aspect of life, business, government, whatever, war. You need to gather information to know what your move is, right? Because at first, when something happens, nobody knows anything, right?
Yep.
When the fires in Maui started, nobody knew anything. When the whole fog around the world started, nobody knew anything. But you gather information. When Ukraine and Russia started, nobody knew anything. But now people have gathered some information and they get different viewpoints of what's happening. So everything when it first starts is chaotic. It's crazy. That's why you can't really plan for a lot of things, because every plan goes to crap the minute real things happen, because it's just impossible to plan for every aspect. You need to gather information and use that information of what has currently happened and makes most sense to move forward. Don't just get bombarded and pushed into one camp or another without gathering any information and ever educating yourself on why you're sitting in that camp. Why do you think the way you think? Why do you agree with this or don't agree with this when you haven't done any research on any opposing viewpoints?
Yep. Well, family, listen. It has been a fun day for our first episode of the Danger Close Alpha podcast. Crusader, looking forward to many more. We will continue. Thank you, Crypto Mud. Glad that you guys are here. We will be doing some things to help support the show. Obviously, we're going to be putting a lot of time and effort into this. So we're going to be doing some little things that hopefully you guys will be happy to support the show. Hopefully, we'll be able to stick around on YouTube and still walk the line. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you enjoyed it, please drop a comment below. Share this out to people. Let them know, hey, they're doing their thing over here. We are really excited about it. So we will see you again next week, next Sunday. We'll let you know if anything changes. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter. It'll be our DCA. It'll be the same. It'll be our Danger Close Alpha. what is our? It's danger. It is what's the at on Twitter?
It's danger close alpha without the.
Oh
A.
yeah, without the A. Yeah, because the
alpha
alpha was too long, so it's danger close ALPH without the A. So make sure that you guys are following us on there, and we'll continue to put updates and stuff. It had just been like our NFT stuff, but as the podcast continues and as we grow and whatnot, we're going to continue to be on there.
Yeah, hopefully,
we got a lot of stuff.
the whole goal is to eventually, wrap things back up into the NFT project as the market turns around, right? Things we're cooking and building, and this is a brand. This is not just a podcast. It's not just an NFT project. It's something that we're building, and hopefully it all ties back in, and we take advantage of the market when it turns back around.
Yep. Well, as always, people, we're going to sign off the same way without the very end little piece. I just want to remind everybody to question everything.
Trust nothing.
And until next time,
prepare. I don't know.
we obviously had to discuss that tagline, people. Okay,
we got to find something, but
we'll see you guys soon.
Strap in. It's going to be a bumpy ride.